Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Elevate Your Life podcast. My name is Paul Croto, and I'm here with Cheryl Morley.
Yes, I'm super excited to be here. But not only that today, Paul, I feel really blessed to talk about what we have prepared because I just love this topic. It's near and dear to my heart, and I laugh a lot and kind of make fun of it a little bit, but it really is super important.
Cheryl, I was so excited about this podcast that I almost called myself Cheryl to open up this podcast here. And hi, I'm Cheryl Morley, and I'm here with.
You can, that's okay.
This is huge. I mean, this whole book. So we're reading out of the book, Developing the Leader Within You, 2.0, by John Maxwell. And so it's just been an unbelievable book. So if you haven't bought the book yet, can't recommend it enough. And if you missed any of these podcasts, can't recommend enough going back and listening to them. You can go to elevateyourlife.com, put in your name and email address, and we'll send you the notes to all of our podcasts, including this one. So Cheryl, this is wow. I mean, we've done so many different big topics recently. You know, we just got done with talking about vision and just a lot of really big topics. This one though, and then we'll get into why we think this is so important and how this leads to other things, because we did a podcast last week on self-confidence.
Oh, well, that's a huge topic. I mean,
Yeah.
That's huge. But guess what? They all tie together, Paul. That's what I'm super excited about, is to talk. I mean, yes, we're talking about something a little bit different, but it all heads towards, the ever elusive, it seemed like to me forever, self-confidence. So I just love that everything's kind of tying in together. And what it does for me is it gives me hope and kind of a roadmap of how I can continue to have better self-confidence, which I absolutely love that. And I do believe that it's one of the main things and main questions that I get. How do I?
Absolutely. And that's why I love this chapter so much, is because I never really made the big connection between self-discipline and self-confidence. And in fact, Cheryl and I were just going on and on and on for years that self-confidence is the biggest problem in the world.
Yeah.
It's not.
No.
It's self-discipline.
But let's just not get crazy. I mean,
self-discipline.
I know it really is. And it's so funny that's what it is. And look, it's not hard to see that if you can get better at self-discipline, you'll have more self-confidence. You have more confidence in yourself because you said you'll do something and you do it.
And you do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this chapter is called The Price Tag of Leadership, which I love, because the price tag of leadership is having self-discipline. And as John always mentions, that the hardest person to lead in the world is yourself, which I'll back that. I'm sure Cheryl, you'll take
I always do what I tell
you'll second that.
Yes, exactly. It is hard. And I love that that's the way it all starts.
Well,
right?
talk about hard, Cheryl. Talk to us about
Yes.
uphill.
Well, everything that's worthwhile is uphill. I mean, everything worth having, it's an uphill climb to get it, right? But if everything's uphill and the biggest problem is that we have downhill habits, how are we ever going to get to where we want to be?
Yeah. And Cheryl and I were talking before the podcast about how important it is to get in your mind right now that everything worthwhile is uphill. And Cheryl, I want you to expand on this, because I think this is something you're super passionate about. Just knowing how difficult it is from the start makes it a little bit easier.
Well, let me tell you something. I don't know if any of us really know how difficult it's going to be. Like if you told me years ago when I started traveling with Dr. Wallach, and it's like, Cheryl, you want to travel with Dr. Wallach? Oh yeah, I see the vision. I want to help people. That's what I want to do. I had no idea how hard, but I knew that it wouldn't be easy. I knew it would be hard, right? I didn't know how hard. I didn't know the different things, but I think as long as we know that it's hard, then it gives us hope. But I think when, I think then when I say hope, then I think, oh, listen, I can do hard stuff. Like, look, that's no problem. I'm willing to do the hard stuff to get this goal that I want, or this goal that I've set. But I think if we believe from the start, oh, it's not that hard. In fact, it's pretty easy. Then I think what happens is the first time something smacks us in the face, some obstacle comes up, we're like, what? You said this was easy.
Yeah.
And so then we quit.
Yeah.
And that's what I think that's the biggest difference for me.
Yeah.
Look, it's going to
We
be
see it all
hard.
the time.
Yeah, we do.
In everything, business, weight loss. I mean, you name it. People, they come into hit an obstacle, like you said, because they thought this was going to be easy, and then they crumble, and totally give up on their dreams or what they're setting out to do there. So I love this one, Cheryl. If you have uphill hopes, but downhill habits, you're in big trouble. The two just do not mesh well together. You can't have uphill hopes, but downhill habits.
Can't we just hope more?
This next sentence, Cheryl, I think is the most important sentence of the whole podcast here. So let us know what it is.
Yeah, it's the only way you go uphill is by having self-discipline.
Yeah, and I had to think about that for a while after he said it. I'm like, is that really true? There's got to be something else too. And then I'm like, nope. You got the self-discipline.
Well, it would be nice if there was another thing or two, because then look, honestly, let's be honest. If you want to be successful, and that means leading yourself and having self-confidence. And now we know that the number one way to do that, and the only way to do it, is to have self-discipline, and you struggle with that, that's a little scary to me. Like, I'm like, wait, what? What do you mean we have to be, what do you mean we have to have self-discipline? Like, does that mean, it means a whole lots of stuff. The first thing I thought was, oh, can I watch Yellowstone? What does that have self-discipline? Well, can I?
They're not cutting to my billions watching here, okay?
I know, right? Exactly. So I started thinking, oh my gosh. So those are the things that you have to think about, though. I mean, these habits that you have to have that really rotate and evolve around self-discipline.
Yeah, sure. We talk about so many different words. We talk about determination, grit, all this stuff. Well, all those things are great, but they're all about self-discipline. Like,
it is self-discipline.
It's what it is. At the end of the day, it's doing things when you don't actually feel like doing them. We're sticking to the plan, following the program.
Yeah.
Especially when you don't feel like doing it, because that's the moments where I think we get separation between people,
Well, and I'll tell you what I think is crazy is it's one thing, right? So we're talking a little bit about leading yourself, and you have to have self-discipline. But as a leader, I mean, our biggest challenge, I think, is to keep people climbing every single day. I mean, look, and what about if you hit a rock slide and you're clawing and you're sliding down the hill and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do to change this. I don't know how to get out of this. I mean, that's what we're here to do, right? We're here to support and to help and to stop the slide and start climbing again.
Well, that's not even the biggest problem, Cheryl. The biggest problem is that people want, you have a team of people, guarantee you they want to coast to success. They're not even thinking about climbing uphill or scratching and clawing to get up there.
Listen, the coasting is not good. Oh my gosh. Well, and the crazy thing to me is that, how you get like super excited, like, oh my gosh, I'm going to do this. Okay, let's go. And you are at it. You are pushing, you are climbing, you are doing so great. This reminds me of rock climbing. And up you go, and oh my gosh, and day after day after day after day, and you're on day 4 and you're like, oh yeah, I got this. As a matter of fact, I've done so well over the last few days that I think I'm going to take a day off. I'm going to take a day off and just kind of relax. But don't worry, because I'm going to hit it hard again tomorrow. And you just can't do that. Can you
Yeah.
imagine Elon Musk having a day off?
Yeah. Or like you
I
said,
mean-
if someone puts in a real hard day, you know, and then they want like, well, I need to take a week off after that day because that was a really.
Oh, well, listen, that sounds even better to me. Look, today was so darn hard that I need a week to recover.
So Cheryl, how long do you think? So there's an 8 hour typical workday out there. How much of that is productive hours, like where people are actually going uphill?
I like to think it's 8, Paul. I like to think it's 8, but I think it isn't. How much is it?
2.
Not 2.
2 out of 8.
Okay, then what I think we should do is just start working for 2 hours. And
Now
not
ask
pretend
me
like
how long people spend on social media per day on the average. And there's some people don't spend any time on social media. Yeah.
I don't want to- I'm just kidding. I don't know what the average on social
2.7
media-
hours of social media, average person
No.
per day.
Well, no wonder they're not.
That could be listed on the distraction side of things that, you know,
Yeah.
it's always important to have 2 lists. One list of the things you should do today and the list of things you should not do today. And
Oh, I don't want, I burned that list. Good. No, I know that's so true. Well, and I think it's just to remind yourself. But the thing is, the thing that's so weird is it's so much easier and faster to go downhill.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a constant, and you know what I call, you know what one of my favorite new words is, Paul? Battle.
A battle.
Because that's what it is. It is a battle to continue to move uphill every single day.
Yeah. The struggle is real. That's my favorite quote.
I like that. The struggle is real. Yeah, and I like that. My whole thing is battle on, hold
Battle
your
on.
ground, hold the line. That's what I always say when I play
Hold the
tennis.
line.
When you're at the net with someone hitting a ball that's like 200 miles an hour at your face, it just kind of runs through my mind quickly. Hold the line.
So
but
good.
it's the same way. But I think that's how it is in life, right?
Yeah.
Hold the line, hold where you're at. Don't slide backwards. And I think even if you can hold where you're at and just make little tiny, you know, just little tiny steps, you know,
Yep.
if you're struggling, if you're going through a hard time, that's the way you do it. You hold the line where you're at on this
Yep.
climb to the top of the mountain, but you know, just maybe just a little step.
Yeah, I mean, the whole elevate message is just elevate 1% a day, just a little
right.
bit every day over a course of time. You see this, you know, and it's not just a year. You take that over 5-10 years, and that's where you see the massive success in life. Is when
Yeah.
you stay disciplined for that long. But let's talk about. I love these self-discipline thoughts we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
You have some more written down here. That one is that self-discipline is the difference between temporary success and sustained success. Which I love that. I mean, it's absolutely true.
Yeah. And I think the next one is incredible, Paul, because I don't think I ever looked at it like this
Me
or
either.
thought about it like this. But that's just that the core of success, the core, and look, how important is the core, right? Even in your body, the core, your core is everything. Nothing else works right if you've got a core that's not disciplined. Let me assure you, a disciplined core. But this is the core of all success is self-discipline.
Yeah, again, I had to really think about this one because I'm like, man, is that true? But the more I thought about it, I'm like, holy cow, it is.
Yeah.
You know, so it's
Yeah.
it's not an overused word, yeah, phrase.
And I'll tell
because
you, yeah, that's true.
you
That's
need to
true.
mention it once or twice more.
Yeah. Well, let me just say this. I think the next one is amazing only because as a woman, I really feel the need to help other people make it up the mountain. And I don't care sometimes, moms, if you can, you know, shout out because I'm getting up the mountain myself.
Listen,
and
Jill,
I
I've seen you carrying 6 people on top of your shoulders. I'll climb that mountain.
But you reach down to help somebody else up who's not doing so well, and down you start to slide. then
Yeah.
you're going down, then they're going down, then we're all headed down. Right? And so, but it just reminds me of that and how important it is that there's nothing that you can do, not one thing on earth that you can do for an undisciplined person that will help make them successful. There's nothing. Each of us has to do it ourselves, right? Of course, we're there for a hand up. We're there for,
Yep.
we're there on belay. We're there helping. We are there. But to get into this thing of that you have to do it for them, or that you can do something to make them have self-discipline, that is never going to work.
Yeah, that first word, self, is super important.
Well, it is. It is. Yeah. And
Not
I
like you're going to
should
get
say
it from somebody else. Someone else can force you, but you've got to have the self-discipline yourself.
Yeah.
And I love that self-discipline makes habit your servant instead of your master. So we talk about this all the time where we're just running on a pattern all the time. 91% of the things that we're doing are all automatic. They're only because your mind's thinking, well, what should I do now? Because you're in a moment right now of uncertainty. Like, this is a brand new moment. So your mind just looks backwards and says, well, what did I do yesterday at this time? Or what do I usually do at this time? How do I usually feel? And, you don't even feel like you're in control of your own life. I meet so many people who don't even feel like they're in control of their whole life because their habits are running them, and they're like, just, the habits of their master. But you can switch this and make it so it's working for you, really make habit your servant, where it's going to take you to reach the goals and dreams that you have.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, let's look at the differences, Paul, between climbing uphill and sliding downhill.
There's a big difference.
Yeah, tell us a couple.
Well, so we're going to go left and right. So on the left, we're going to talk about uphill climbing, and the right. So if you're following notes, you'll see the diagram that we have down here. But so on the left side, uphill climbing, everything's worthwhile. But on the right side, the downhill sliding part, nothing's worthwhile. So on the left, we got wins, right? We got losses. On the left, I love this one. We got preparing and then repairing.
Yeah.
So if you're going downhill, you're just always repairing accidents that are going on. You're putting bandages on people all the time. There's high morale, low morale, high self-respect, low self-respect, self-improvement, no improvement, purposeful, aimless, fulfilling, which is a huge word that we use a lot, Cheryl, and feeling empty on the downhill slide. Next one, making a difference versus not making a difference. I mean, contributing or not contributing, the contributing is uphill. And the next one I think is the best one. So uphill climbing is intentional actions, which I know, Cheryl, you always talk about doing. Good intentions is knowing what to do, but just not doing it. So that's downhill.
Oh, yeah.
So good.
Yeah, it really is. And it's so interesting because I always thought good intentions was the best thing ever, right? You're good at, well, they had good
We hear that
intentions.
all the time.
We do. Yeah, we do. But that's not it. It's good intentions are wonderful as long as the action comes with the good
Intentional action.
intention,
Yeah.
meaning you have to do it.
Yeah.
Right. You can't just have an intention and not do it. So it's just absolutely, it's just amazing to me how we get like caught up in these little words. Well,
Yeah.
I wonder, what great intentions, right? Well, that doesn't mean you
meant
did
well.
anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what we find out, Paul, from everything that you just talked about is that it takes an extremely disciplined person to climb uphill, and that self-discipline is the only way that you're going to be able to do that.
Yeah, so huge. So let's talk about our emotion, Cheryl, because I love tying all our other teachings into this one. So we always talk about, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Is our emotions leading our thoughts, or our thoughts leading our emotions? And you'll hear people say, oh, just listen to your body. Or, well, what do you feel like doing today? What do you feel like having for dinner tonight? And it's just
Nachos.
nachos. It's so bad to ask that. It's not about how you feel. You got to have the thoughts come first.
Yeah.
So emotions without thinking is downhill.
Yeah.
I just feel like, I don't know, taking the day off today. I'm going to go lay out back. Emotions with wrong thinking is also downhill. This is huge. So when you think right, your emotions will be right. When you think right, your emotions will be right.
Yeah.
So well said.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's so true. And just like becoming aware of that is really where it all starts. Because I think a lot of us start thinking after we have the emotion,
Yeah.
right? So we have the emotion, we're in the middle of it, and we're like, oh, well, how did I get out back laying out when I was supposed to be, following up with my 10 people? How did that happen? Right. And it's just becoming aware, and thinking about what emotions really, what it is, Paul, is thinking about the emotions you want to have.
Right.
And then,
right.
and then those emotions will come.
But I remember you telling me a story about you just saying to Dr. Wallach that I really don't feel like doing this or that or whatever it was you were doing.
Listen. I used
What
to
was
say
his
that to
favorite
my
response
dad.
to that?
Oh yeah, I used to say that to my dad.
Okay.
He always used to say, yeah. So I would tell my dad when I was younger, I don't really care. Oh, I don't want to do it. I don't feel like doing that. And he'd say, well, what does that have to do with the price of rice in China? And I was like, what? I mean, literally, I heard that my entire life. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, exactly. I don't care if you feel like it or not. It has nothing to do with anything. You do it anyway.
Yeah, on the farm, you gotta do the certain things every single day, or
what are your
things
feelings
gonna go sideways fast.
Yeah, what do your feelings have to do with anything? When you have to do something, your feelings have nothing to do with it.
Yeah, that
right.
counts.
And I think that's and I love that.
Yeah,
I always remember that. Well, Paul, please, let's talk about how to make self-discipline easier.
Amen.
And give our guests like some good ideas.
Yeah, this was a huge turning point for me, in tying things together and connecting the dots. So there's a huge relationship between willpower and why power.
Yeah.
Willpower and why power. So everyone's like, I don't have any willpower. Well, why don't you have any willpower? It's because you don't have any whys.
That's right.
So
the bigger your whys are, the more willpower you will have.
So the bigger your whys, the more willpower you're going to have, which is you'll have more self-discipline. More self-discipline will give you more self-confidence.
Sure.
So it really starts, when we talk about the why all the time, Cheryl, it all goes back to the why.
Right.
Why are you doing this? So we Cheryl and I are obsessed with RPM. What do you want? What's the result you want? Why in the world do you want it? What's the purpose for this thing? Which is the P. And then we talk about strategy last. I mean, strategy is still important, the map. But if you don't know the result first, and then I think arguably the most important part of the whole thing is the purpose. Why are we doing this? When you get really, solid on that part, you can do anything in life. So I love that. And the next, let's see here. So we talk about changing your identity. So a lot of people will be like, oh, I'm not, I go to the gym every single day. Like, well, I'm just not that type of person. Well, then you need to change who you are, because I'm not the type of person that likes to eat, good all the time, or take my supplements every day, or be good all the time. So you just got to change your identity, because you decide what your identity is. And I love this next one, Cheryl, when John talks about movement, the movement of the pen, because we just talked about in our last podcast that you have, when you have a vision, you got to start moving forwards. And when you start moving forwards, that's when you get the things you need.
Exactly. I mean, that's how it has to happen. Right. And it's amazing because we're all waiting. Well, as soon as this happens, then I'll feel like this. Or as soon as I get a good idea, I will start to write.
Right. No, that's exactly how it works. I got no good ideas. Why should I sit down and write?
Right. Well, you're not going to have one until you sit down and start writing, which seems so counterintuitive to me. I mean, it
goes, again, right in line with what we said in the last podcast about having this vision and taking action and then you're going to get the things you need. So the movement of the pen starts moving when ideas begin, so when the pen starts moving, that's when the ideas start coming.
Right. Yeah. I love
that.
And
the ideas do not come to a person without a pen in their hand, who's writing.
Yeah. Well, and you know, and again, a lack of self-discipline comes back around all the time, every time, to not knowing what you want. And
Yeah.
how many times, Paul, have you asked someone or been coaching someone and they're like, oh, well, this, and this, and that, this, and well, what do you really want?
Yeah.
And so many times, and I find this especially with women, they don't know. Well, I don't know. Well, my parents told me to do this. Well, my husband tells me to do this. Well, my friends say this and do this. Well, what do you want? Like, what I don't know. It's so interesting to me. And the only reason I think about it is because I used to be in the same situation.
Yeah, it's really important to know, so people focus on what do I want now instead of what do I want most.
Yeah.
It's such a big difference between that because we are just so now that we don't think about the future, and we're just like, oh, this cookie won't really matter, just one, and then but it does because it has a chain reaction to it. So super interesting. So self-confidence, like you said, is a lack of knowing what you want, but self-discipline makes consistency possible, and consistency compounds.
Yeah.
So we talk about that. Oh, you got to have consistency. Consistency is it. Well, you need self-discipline first. If you have self-discipline, you're going to have consistency. When you have consistency, you're going to have all these compounding effects in your life, which is super interesting. It comes back to that.
Yeah,
The more
it really does. Yeah, well, I totally agree. I mean, you have to be consistent. You have to do something over and over and over and over again to be good at it. And it's funny because everyone says, oh, well, John, you're so good at speaking. Well, yeah, that's right. I am. I've done 12,000 speeches. That's what he said. I've done, and so it's just so important to know that you have to be consistent. Not only that, but you're not going to be good when you start. I think this is so important. I was just talking to my sister this morning. We were talking about how kids try something once, and if they're not the best, or if they don't win right off, they'll never do it again.
Yep.
And well, I hate that. So if you know that, you're not going to be good. So what? What does that have to do with anything? Then you understand and you'll keep trying. Oh, well, let me try it again. I did this too. I said, look, if I'm not a virtuoso violin player in the first week of violin lessons, I'm just never going to play that again. Because obviously I'm not good at it.
Right.
Well, of course you're not. Did I even know what a violin and a bow were 1 week? Right?
Right.
So I just think it's super important to know that.
Yeah, and you're never gonna get good till you get going. Once you get going and do it over time, you can, people say all the time that we're with these podcasts are unbelievable. Well, Cheryl and I have each been speaking in front of large crowds for 25 years and traveling all over the country doing that. Really traveling all over the world doing that. And then, we've done these 83 podcasts, which over time you start to get better as you go along. Like, I'm sure we're going to look back at this one when we're on 883 and be like, wow, we really sucked back there on 83.
I probably won't say that, Paul. I'm totally kidding.
Carol likes to skip the review part of it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Well, let's talk a little bit about the application.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the number one thing that we need to really think about, and Paul, again, it goes back to awareness, is where is self-discipline lacking in your life? You have to ask yourself that, and you have to have the courage to answer yourself, right? Like, I don't even want to look at
where
that.
would you say, Cheryl, in your life you're lacking self-discipline?
Nowhere, Paul, but thank you for asking. No, let's see. I don't know, because I'm like pretty strict.
Yeah,
maybe I guess I will say this. I'm lacking self-discipline in getting up, like at this point in my life, getting up right at 5 o'clock in the morning. I am lacking self-discipline in that specific thing. I still do all my stuff, but that one thing, because I've been staying up late with my kids.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah. And it's like, especially in the summer when kids are home from school,
Oh,
it's
and not that, but I'm going to bed, it's 10 o'clock. It's still bright as can be in the bedroom. Like it's noon still.
yeah, I
It's
don't, yeah.
not even dark.
Right. So that's probably where.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Super cool. So yeah, take the time to ask yourself that question, Dane. I know it's tough, but it's like Cheryl said, awareness is everything. So create a consistency streak. And we're freaks about streaks. Like we want streaks to happen in your life, even if it's making your bed every single morning. There's got to be something you can do 7 days in a row to show that you have self-discipline. And that will make you feel so much more self-confident. And it's going to radiate into all the areas of your life. So pick something and go on a streak for just 7 days. Make a 7-day commitment. And anyone can do anything for 7 days. I remember listening to Andy talk about 75 Hard, the program out there called 75 Hard. And he's like, people have never done anything for 75 days in a row. So it's a great program to go through as well, because it really solidifies the self-discipline. So what's the +1 for today, Cheryl? Obviously, we said so many things.
Yep.
What does this come down to?
I think it all comes down to that everything worthwhile is uphill. And the only thing that can take you uphill or help you move uphill is the self-discipline.
Wow, so powerful. So Cheryl, we always end the podcast by saying, do something today to elevate your life.
So that you can move from fine to fabulous.
Awesome. All right, have a great day, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.